Did you know that over 6 million Canadians are struggling just to afford food in one of the richest countries on earth? Home prices have soared to levels where even doctors and engineers can't buy homes in the cities they work in. And the healthcare system? It's so overloaded that some people are waiting over a year just to see a specialist. Something is clearly breaking. Canada has long been praised as a peaceful, polite, and stable nation. But behind the maple leaves and friendly smiles, a quiet storm is building, one that threatens the very foundation of the country. From out-of-control housing costs and political division to mental health crises and climate disasters, signs of deep dysfunction are everywhere. Yet many Canadians are still asking, how did we get here? In this video, we'll break down the 10 most urgent reasons why Canada is reaching a breaking point, and what could happen next if these issues aren't addressed. Some of these may shock you. Others might hit painfully close to home. But by the end, you'll see why this moment matters, not just for Canada, but for everyone watching. Number 1. Cost of living crisis. Everything in Canada is getting more expensive, fast. From groceries and gas to rent and electricity, the basic costs of daily life have exploded over the last few years. In fact, some families are now spending more than half of their monthly income just to keep a roof over their heads, leaving little left for savings, education, or emergencies. The average grocery bill for a family of 4 has crossed $1,300 a month, and food banks across the country are reporting record-breaking demand. Many are even seeing full-time workers lining up for free meals. What's even more alarming is that wages aren't keeping up. Incomes have barely grown while inflation continues to rise, squeezing the middle class and pushing more people into financial instability. Young Canadians are feeling it the hardest. Many are forced to live with parents well into their 30s, not because they want to, but because independent living is no longer realistic. Even highly educated professionals are struggling to make ends meet in major cities like Vancouver and Toronto, where rent for a one-bedroom apartment can exceed $2,500 a month. For newcomers to the country, it's even more difficult as they face high costs without the financial cushion of savings or established credit. This isn't just about money, it's about the shifting quality of life. The rising cost of living is changing how Canadians live, work, and plan for the future. Vacations are being canceled, families are delaying having children, and mental health is worsening due to constant financial pressure. Canada used to be seen as a land of opportunity and stability. But now, for many, it feels like they're running on a treadmill that's only speeding up, and no one knows how to get off. Number 2. Housing crisis. Canada's housing market has become a nationwide emergency. The dream of owning a home, once seen as a natural part of adult life, is now slipping out of reach for millions. In cities like Toronto and Vancouver, average home prices have soared well above $1 million, while even small towns and rural communities are no longer affordable. Renters are being squeezed too, with prices rising faster than income, forcing many into unsafe, overcrowded, or temporary living conditions. The reality is harsh. People with stable, full-time jobs are still unable to afford a place to live. The problem isn't just high prices, it's a severe lack of supply. According to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, the country needs to build at least 5.8 million new homes by 2030 to restore affordability. But with rising construction costs, zoning delays, and local resistance to development, we're falling dangerously short of that goal. Meanwhile, investors and speculators continue to treat housing as a profit machine, snapping up properties and driving up prices even more. As a result, many Canadians feel like they're being pushed out of their own communities. This crisis is reshaping the country. Young adults are delaying independence, couples are putting off starting families, and seniors are struggling to downsize in a market that's too expensive even for them. Homelessness is rising, not just in big cities, but in suburbs and smaller towns that were once seen as affordable alternatives. It's no longer a personal issue, it's a national one, with deep economic and social consequences. When people can't find a safe, affordable place to live, everything else begins to break down. And unless bold, coordinated action is taken soon, Canada's housing crisis could turn into a full-blown societal collapse. Number 3. Strained by record immigration. Canada has opened its doors wider than ever before. In 2024 alone, the country welcomed over 1.2 million newcomers, including permanent residents, international students, and temporary foreign workers. On paper, immigration supports economic growth, offsets an aging population, and fills labor shortages. But in practice, the system is now under immense pressure. The rapid pace of population growth is overwhelming infrastructure, housing, and public services, many of which were already stretched thin before the recent surges. It's not immigration itself that's the problem. It's the lack of planning to support it. In major urban centers, the impact is most visible. Housing markets are tightening, rental costs are rising, and public transit is buckling under increased demand. Schools are overcrowded, and hospitals are facing longer wait times. Newcomers are struggling to find affordable housing and decent jobs, with many ending up underemployed despite having advanced degrees. Meanwhile, longtime residents are growing frustrated as competition for resources intensifies, fueling resentment and division. Without proper coordination, immigration, which should be a source of national strength, risks becoming a flashpoint of social tension. What's missing is a realistic, well-funded strategy to expand the country's capacity alongside its population. Building homes, improving transportation, and scaling up healthcare and education should have been prioritized long before opening the floodgates. But instead, governments have allowed immigration targets to rise without ensuring that cities and provinces are ready to handle the growth. The result? A nation caught off guard, and communities struggling to keep up. If Canada wants to maintain its reputation as a welcoming, inclusive country, it must recognize that growth without preparation leads to chaos, and that chaos is already beginning to show in daily life across the nation. Number 4. Mental health crisis. Behind closed doors, more Canadians than ever are struggling to cope. Rates of depression, anxiety, and burnout have surged across all age groups, especially since the pandemic. According to recent data from the Canadian Mental Health Association, 1 in 2 Canadians say their mental health has worsened in the past few years. Emergency rooms are seeing record numbers of patients with mental health issues, and suicide rates among youth and young adults are climbing. These aren't isolated stories. They reflect a deeper crisis that's silently affecting millions of lives. Stress from rising costs, unstable housing, job insecurity, and social isolation is taking its toll. For many, the pressure never turns off. It follows them from work to home, from morning to night. And when they reach out for help, support is often hard to find. Public mental health services are overwhelmed, with months-long wait lists for therapy or counseling. Private care is too expensive for most, leaving vulnerable people to suffer in silence. Even in schools, mental health resources are stretched thin, with some districts lacking enough staff to meet growing demand. The stigma around mental health may be slowly fading, but the system hasn't caught up. This crisis affects more than just individuals. It's reshaping communities, workplaces, and families. Productivity is dropping, relationships are breaking down, and more people are turning to substances to cope. Social media, while offering connection, often makes things worse by fueling unrealistic comparisons and constant negativity. If left unchecked, this silent epidemic could have long-term consequences for Canada's social and economic future. A nation can't thrive when half its population is emotionally drained and mentally unwell. It's not just about access to therapy, it's about creating a society where people can actually live well, not just survive. And right now, we're failing at that. Number 5. Job insecurity and stagnant wages. For many Canadians, hard work no longer guarantees stability. Over the past decade, wages have barely kept up with inflation, and in some sectors, they've fallen behind completely. Today, millions of workers are stuck in part-time, contract, or gig jobs that offer no benefits, no stability, and no long-term security. Even university graduates, who were once assured of a strong start in life, are now juggling multiple side hustles just to stay afloat. The idea of a career is being replaced by constant hustle, not by choice, but by necessity. At the same time, living expenses keep climbing. While housing and food costs rise sharply, salaries remain stuck. A growing number of workers are reporting that even with full-time employment, they're just one emergency away from falling into debt. Younger generations feel the most impact, entering a workforce where traditional paths to success have crumbled. There's also a growing divide between high-paying tech or finance jobs and low-paying service or labor positions, which leaves many feeling left behind. For immigrants and marginalized communities, the situation is even more severe, facing barriers to advancement despite working just as hard. This slow erosion of job quality is causing widespread frustration. People feel they're working more, earning less, and sacrificing time, health, and happiness for a system that no longer rewards loyalty or effort. It's not just about income, it's about dignity. It's about the ability to plan for a future, save for retirement, or take a day off without fear. Canada once promised that if you work hard, you could build a good life. But that promise feels broken now. And if a nation can't offer its people economic stability, the consequences can ripple far beyond paychecks, affecting mental health, family life, and trust in the system itself. If you found these insights eye-opening, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment and share your perspective, because your voice matters. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It's just one click, and it helps us keep bringing you videos packed with research, analysis, and the stories that really matter. Number 6. Collapse of trust in institutions. Across Canada, trust in the very institutions meant to serve and protect people is unraveling. More and more citizens are expressing doubt toward the government, media, and even the healthcare and legal systems. According to a recent Ipsos survey, only 37% of Canadians say they trust their federal government, a dramatic drop from just a few years ago. Scandals, broken promises, political gridlock, and a growing sense that decisions are made for the elite, not the public, are fueling a nationwide credibility crisis. When people stop believing that the system works for them, everything starts to fracture. Media is facing similar skepticism. Once trusted news outlets are now viewed by many as biased or out of touch. With the rise of independent online voices and misinformation, Canadians are increasingly unsure of what to believe and who to listen to. This confusion isn't just inconvenient, it's dangerous. When the public doesn't trust official sources, it becomes harder to respond to real emergencies, build consensus, or enact necessary reforms. The pandemic highlighted this issue, with many people ignoring health guidelines or doubting scientific advice simply because they no longer trusted messengers. This growing distrust is not just emotional, it's structural. People are tired of long wait times, inaccessible services, and policies that seem more performative than practical. When you can't find a family doctor, when your tax dollars disappear into bureaucratic black holes, when politicians argue more than they act, it sends a clear message: the system isn't working. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. And without it, democracy itself begins to weaken. If Canada wants to prevent deeper divisions and unrest, it must restore faith in its core institutions, not through slogans, but through action, transparency, and meaningful accountability. Number 7. Political division. Canada, once known for its moderate and measured political culture, is now facing growing polarization. The political center is shrinking, while the far ends of the spectrum gain traction, leaving many Canadians feeling politically homeless. Heated debates over issues like immigration, climate policy, freedom of speech, and pandemic measures have exposed deep divides. These aren't just policy disagreements anymore. They're turning into identity battles, where compromise feels impossible and every issue becomes a line in the sand. The tone of public discourse has shifted, and not for the better. The rise of populism, distrust in politicians, and growing influence of social media have fueled this division. Politicians now often cater to outrage, not solutions, because it grabs headlines and wins online engagement. As a result, citizens are tuning out or turning on each other. Friendships and families are strained, and more people report feeling anxious or exhausted by the toxic political climate. Instead of working together to solve real problems, political energy is being wasted on point scoring and partisan theater. Many voters feel like their voices don't matter, and worse, that no party truly represents them. This divide isn't just unhealthy, it's dangerous. It slows down progress, erodes national unity, and creates an atmosphere of fear and mistrust. If Canadians stop believing that they can come together across differences, then solutions to major issues, housing, healthcare, climate change, will remain out of reach. A democracy depends on dialogue, respect, and shared goals, even among opposing sides. Right now, those qualities are fading. And if the division continues to deepen, Canada risks becoming a country where people are more loyal to their side than to each other, a path that has already proven destructive in other parts of the world. Number 8. Climate disasters escalating. Canada is warming at twice the global average, and the effects are no longer distant or theoretical. They're unfolding right now. From record-breaking wildfires that choked cities in smoke to devastating floods and extreme heat waves, climate disasters are becoming more frequent, more intense, and more destructive. In 2023 alone, over 18 million hectares of forest burned, an area larger than the entire province of New Brunswick. Entire communities were evacuated, homes destroyed, and lives uprooted. What used to be once-in-a-century events are now happening every year, and the country's infrastructure simply isn't built to handle this new normal. The economic cost is staggering. Insurance premiums are rising rapidly, disaster recovery bills are in the billions, and some communities may never fully rebuild. Farmers are seeing their crops ruined by droughts or floods, threatening food security and driving up prices nationwide. Even the mental health toll is growing, with people living in constant anxiety about when and where the next disaster will strike. While Canadians are increasingly aware of climate change, the political response remains slow and fragmented. Promises are made, but real, systemic action is rare, often blocked by short-term interests or political division. These disasters are not just environmental, they're deeply personal. Families losing homes, children missing school, entire towns on edge. As these events become more common, they begin to reshape the way people live, plan, and think about the future. Canada is at a tipping point. Without serious investment in climate adaptation, sustainable infrastructure, and green innovation, the country risks falling further behind. The question is no longer whether climate change is real. It's how much damage we're willing to tolerate before action is taken. And right now, the clock is ticking faster than ever. Number 9. Youth disengagement. A growing number of young Canadians are tuning out, not because they don't care, but because they've lost faith in the system. For many Gen Z and millennials, the traditional path of going to school, getting a job, buying a home, and building a future feels like a broken promise. They're graduating with massive student debt, entering a job market full of unstable work, and facing a cost of living that leaves little room for independence. The result? A generation that feels stuck, frustrated, and increasingly disconnected from the idea of a hopeful future in Canada. This disengagement is showing up everywhere. Voter turnout among young people is declining. Many no longer trust political leaders, institutions, or media. Mental health challenges are rising, as is a sense of existential uncertainty about the future. Social media, while giving youth a voice, also adds pressure, highlighting inequality, climate anxiety, and constant comparisons. Even traditional milestones like marriage, home ownership, and having children are being delayed or abandoned altogether. It's not just personal choice, it's economic reality. For many, the math simply doesn't add up. When an entire generation feels like they have no stake in the system, the consequences ripple across society. We risk losing not only their participation, but their creativity, innovation, and belief in progress. Canada cannot move forward if its youth are looking backward or checking out altogether. And yet, their concerns are often dismissed or politicized, rather than addressed with meaningful change. This growing disconnect between young people and the institutions that shape their lives is one of the clearest signs that the country is at a crossroads. If leaders fail to listen now, they may lose a generation's trust forever, and the long-term cost could be far greater than anyone expects. Number 10. Healthcare under pressure. Canada's healthcare system, long considered a national pride, is now showing serious signs of strain. Hospitals are overcrowded, emergency rooms are packed, and wait times for surgeries and specialist care are reaching record highs. In some provinces, patients are waiting over a year for essential procedures, while primary care shortages mean many Canadians cannot even see a family doctor when they need one. This isn't just an inconvenience. It's a system under critical stress where delays can have life-altering consequences. The problem stems from a combination of factors: an aging population, rising chronic illness rates, and a shortage of healthcare professionals are all colliding with budget constraints and administrative inefficiencies. Nurses and doctors are burning out at unprecedented rates, leaving positions unfilled and care uneven. Rural and remote communities are especially affected, with residents sometimes traveling hundreds of kilometers for basic medical attention. Even urban centers, where resources are theoretically abundant, struggle to keep up with demand. The result is a healthcare system that is no longer fully reliable or accessible to everyone it serves. The consequences go beyond health. Families face stress and financial strain when care is delayed or unavailable. Workers miss time on the job, productivity suffers, and mental health challenges increase as people navigate uncertainty in a system meant to protect them. The Canadian dream of accessible, universal healthcare is at risk of slipping away unless urgent reforms are made. Investments in staffing, infrastructure, and preventative care are needed immediately to prevent the system from collapsing entirely. Without action, healthcare could become another area where Canadians feel forgotten and left behind, and the social, economic, and emotional toll will be felt across the entire country. Canada is at a crossroads. From skyrocketing living costs and a housing crisis to climate disasters, political division, and a healthcare system under pressure, the cracks are no longer hidden. They are visible in the daily struggles of millions of Canadians. Each of the 10 issues we explored is serious on its own, but together they paint a picture of a nation facing profound challenges that demand immediate attention. The choices made today will shape the country's future for decades, affecting not just policy or economy, but the very lives and well-being of its people. The warning signs are clear, but so is the opportunity. Canada can still navigate these crises with thoughtful planning, investment, and collaboration. Citizens, leaders, and communities all have a role to play in rebuilding trust, strengthening institutions, and creating a society where prosperity and opportunity are available to everyone, not just a privileged few. Recognizing the problems is the first step toward meaningful change, but action is what will determine whether Canada thrives or falters in the years ahead. We want to hear from you. Which of these challenges impacts your life the most, and what solutions do you think could help? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because your voice matters. If you appreciate the effort we put into making these in-depth, research-backed videos, please support us by subscribing. It's just one click, and it helps us continue bringing you content that informs, challenges, and inspires. Every like, share, and subscription ensures we can keep exploring the stories that matter most. Don't miss out. Stay informed, stay engaged, and be part of the conversation shaping Canada's future.